Okay, perfect. So tonight we have the privilege of hearing from Dr. Bridget Mitchell. She brings more than 20 years of experience in early childhood education. Her areas of passion and expertise include teacher training, and preparation for social emotional development strategies and multicultural education. She has served in a diverse role that includes um, department chair of early childhood education, assistant to the secretary in minority health. Sorry. I'm so bad. I'm so nervous reading in public. uh, for the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, directors of early education department with Denver Public Schools, and senior director of training and technology and technical teacher with 0 to 3. She's currently serving as the director of professional development with National Associates of Education of Young Children. Dr. Mitchell has authored several chapter books, including topics on bullying and business of early childhood education. She's also an advocate for underserved populations and committed to strengthening and building capacity within early childhood systems. Dr. Mitchell holds an AB in African American Studies, MA, in Human Development and Human Life, and an MBA from the University of Kansas. She earned a doctorate in education of higher education and adult learning. And she also holds a graduate certificate in diversity, equality, and inclusion from Cornell University. So here is our great guest speaker tonight.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. And I think a quick summary is that I love children. I love babies more importantly, and I've devoted my entire career to this incredible, beautiful work. And so it is my privilege to be here with you this evening and talk about the stuff that I love, preparing, helping families and to prepare their children for the best outcomes in school. And so I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So Sharice, if I am making a mistake, please provide support. I appreciate it in advance. But I'm going to share my screen and we're going to start the presentation. And this will be interactive tonight. So we will have a couple of breakouts. And feel free, though, to pop in with any questions to make this opportunity fun and interactive. And you will see me looking to the side and to the front because I have two screens. And I'm trying to navigate both of those for this conversation this evening. Are you seeing my screen, my presentation?
Yes, and it's correct.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I like when things start off well. So I'm gonna try to get this off the screen. Okay. So tonight's conversation, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm trying to be creative, so I'm going to be try to expand my screen. There we go. There are all your beautiful faces. So tonight's presentation is kindergarten and beyond, preparing children for school success. And I know, before I start, just a show of hands, how many of you have heard of kindergarten readiness? Okay, great. A few, right? And so I really think that schools should be ready for kindergartners and kindergartners shouldn't be preparing to be ready for school. And I know that's a controversial way to think about it, but tonight, hopefully I'm going to provide a few resources and assets to shape your thinking so that you are thinking a little bit the same way that I am. And so the learning objectives for the night, you will understand the developmental continuum. It's important to know how children grow and learn before we talk about, how their future school success. You will create an asset and capacity map of your child, really thinking about your baby or babies and what they can do, and then explore the power of play. I will define executive functioning, and executive function is really that key component to later academic success. If you are able to capture this big idea this evening, you are well on your way to seeing your children graduate from high school and beyond. And then you will create a plan to support executive functioning for your student. So what can my child do? And I have can in all capital letters because I think often we are so accustomed to speaking of our children of what they cannot do. And so I'm going to peek on this side where all the faces. So how many of you hear all the time what your children cannot do? Like they can't make their bed. They can't. We use that language, and it's a habit because we are really trying to support children to do the appropriate behaviors or the expected behaviors. But seldom do we talk about what children can do. And hopefully, this conversation today can really elevate your thinking about how you can celebrate the capacity of your own children. Oh, I can't, I'm so sorry. I'm real. There's only one button I can push, obviously. So what is child development? So child development is several domains. So we have cognitive, which is that thinking, processing, and those are those really academic functions that we are accustomed to. That is the area that we often talk about with the teachers, like how well are they doing with language and literacy, and math and their schoolwork. Physical development is the growth of the body, the physical aspect of their bodies. Emotional is really the way that children are able to express themselves and how they are able to deal with situations. And then socially, those are those connections that children are able to make. And those connections are peer-to-peer, adult to child, and siblings if they have those. So why is it important to understand development? And first, I want to say I am a professor at heart, so if everything on my worksheet is not in the PowerPoint, so if you do have a notepad and you want to jot a few things down, please feel free. I just want to say that at the top of the conversation. But why should you understand development? So it is important for you to understand development so you can support advocacy for your children. So raise show of hands if you've been to a parent-teacher conference or you have heard of a parent-teacher conference. Everyone has been in those meetings when the teacher is sharing about where the child is. And often parents feel disempowered in those conversations and are more listening instead of contributing. And today's presentation is really to encourage you to contribute to those conversations. So understanding development helps you have a place to begin the conversation about your child. It also supports partnerships with teachers. When you understand development, you're able to be a strategic partner with the teacher. For example, if you have, and right now my 5-year-old grandson is in my home downstairs with grandpa, kicking. So kicking is a part of physical development. It's something very natural for preschoolers and kindergartners because they just discovered these incredibly big muscles and they really want to use them. And so if you go to a parent conference, teacher conference, and the teacher's talking about kicking, like what can you offer up? You could offer up, wow, it really sounds like my grandson's name is Jameson, aka Lovebug. It really sounds like Lovebug would love an opportunity to kick. So how many opportunities are there to kick outside or inside in the classroom to support his need? So really elevating the conversation so you are able to target what area, what is the child's body telling them that they are that they need at the moment. And then it will help you focus on what your child can do. And two big ideas in this conversation. Children have the greatest capacity and executive functioning is the key to later academic success. So what can they do? How do you flip your conversation? So when teachers are sharing, today, I'm going to use my granddaughter Luna. Today, Luna just could not sit at the table for a snack. And I would flip that to say, so what can she do at snack? What can she do at snack? So this is a language that's really difficult to practice at first because it feels a little uncomfortable, but put at the top of your mind, like, so what did my child do? What can they do? What is the capacity? So that's why it's important to understand development. And then it's important because it helps reframe how others speak about your child's asset. And I'm going to say that again, how others speak about your child's asset. This is really important. And so I've been doing this work for a long time. I never thought I would be one of the people that said, I've been doing this for 20 years. And so often what I hear in classrooms are teachers really with this deficit language about children's ability. But understanding development helps you to reframe those abilities to think about the child's assets. So in the example that I used before with left butt kicking, to say, wow, his leg muscles are really strong right now. So I know this may seem like really out of context. I'm sorry, I'm looking back and forth, but your faces are over here and my presentation is over here. But it really helps you to develop this language. And I want to gift this to each of you, that when children hear you speaking positively about what they're doing, how they're doing, and what they hope to do, that is actualized. So children start operating in this really positive frame. And then understanding develop ensures tailored supports for children. So when teachers are talking about things that didn't happen, my son Ryan, organization was a big deal. So you with older children, I know you understand notebook checks and all those things but were really challenging for us. But understanding development, where the child is, will help you create those strategies. So at the time when my son was in elementary school, I was able to talk about brain development and the process of organizing to align what kind of supports my child was able to get. So any questions about like why understanding development is really important? Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna move on. So now that you know why it's important to understand development, I want to give you kind of like a mini overview of each of the developmental domains so that you can have it in your language repertoire in preparing and supporting your child. And I just want to bring it back to the title. So I know many of you came to this conversation think, whoa, we're going to be talking about kindergarten readiness. I'm going to get there. I promise you. This is the frame up before we get to those really big ideas of how well our children will find success in kindergarten. So cognitive development is the first. And cognitive development deals with language, how children speak, how they are able to articulate their needs in the world. Literacy, their understanding of the written word and the spoken word, and connecting images to pictures. And so I want to say, for those of you who have preschoolers, and could be an entirely different conversation, but early literacy is really critical. So what we know that young children can do, for example, my granddaughter is 2, and we read the same storybook. She's able to follow along with those words with her finger. Why is this important? She's understanding the formation of language. She also is able to anticipate what is happening with the image in relation to the words. So those literacy opportunities, books, when we're thinking about really supporting children and their bladder school success. So that could be an entire another presentation. So I know you're going to invite me back. So maybe we do on early literacy. But cognitive development is also critical thinking. How are children problem solving? And we see problem solving in a lot of instances. And so as adults, we think problem solving, you know, we have, I love logic problems. We have this and we're going here. But for young children, you can see this when they're playing with blocks and clay and all of these decisions that they're making about what comes next and the beautiful pauses and how they're interpreting the external world in relation to who they are. That is critical thinking. They're making these decisions about the world. And an example that I have recently in the car with my grandchildren, we were talking about stop signs. You know, green is go, yellow is is caution, and red is stop. And the children, my grandchildren were saying, why is red stop? That's critical thinking. Anybody, why is red stop? That's a great question, right? And so I get excited about these things. That is critical thinking. That is children thinking beyond what they are seeing and trying to interpret and make sense with the other information that they have. And then really deep problem solving. And this is beautifully illustrated when children are playing with blocks. I mean, this is when you can see the building and the movement and just the decisions that children are making about the world. So any questions on cognitive development? And I want to say this is the area of development that you'll hear most across the academic trajectory because this is the gradable stuff. Does that make sense to everybody? We can grade this. And so we put a heavy emphasis on it in school. However, I want to emphasize that every area of development is equal. We just have the vernacular for cognitive development in schools. So this is why this conversation is so important. So when you are in those parent-teacher conferences or when you are in that first conversation with your kindergarten teacher, which is exciting, and you're talking about what your children can do, I would say, in addition, because I hear this, I've been doing this a long time and I've been in a lot of these. Most parents report they know all of their alphabet, they can say them all, they can recognize all of the colors. And so when you're articulating the cognitive component of what your child can do, be sure to balance that with these other really important areas of development. Any questions about cognitive development? Okay, and just please feel free. You can unmute yourself. You can hold your hand up. I don't know if I'll always know how to do everything, but Sharice is here to help me enjoy the conversation. And the next is physical development. And here I have a little boy, and I want to say something about those really young children. So I am the mommy of a little boy, so I know what little boys can do. They focus really on that large motor development, the big deal when they were like 4 and 5 years of age. And I want to say that call that out specifically because if you have little boys going into kindergarten, some of your first meetings may be, they only want to run. They won't sit in circle time. They're always moving. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. So that's developmentally appropriate. They have all of these beautiful new muscles and they're learning that, whoa, if I can kick, this happens. If I can run, this happens. And so those are typical developmental milestones for all children, but little boys at early 4-year and 5-year-old, we see this earlier. For little girls, we see fine motor development. Little girls are able to paint and use their crayons, and it doesn't mean that there is a deficit in either. It's just that the way that they're growing, the emphasis on the motor movement is a little bit different. So large motor, if your little one is going to kindergarten, I really encourage you to have these collaborative conversations with teachers about When are those opportunities for them to move? They're just as important as those opportunities for them to read. Does everybody understand that? Like they are just equally as important. So books, yes, we have to have that cognitive, but we also have to have this space where they are able to practice the movements that their bodies are ready for at this time. Fine motor. I love this, and so my first classroom was 2-year-olds, and so when I retire, I'm going to get like 8 puppies and volunteer as a 2-year-old teacher for free. This is my favorite age ever. But all the girls in my classroom, they love to paint and draw and make pictures and pretend like they were writing. And so there places and spaces in the classroom, excuse me, that they're able to do this. I mean, that there's always space for them to use their fingers. Is there clay in the classroom? Are they able to crumble leaves and all of those really important movements for their bodies? And it's sensory. It is for them to test and try. And so, right now, for my grandchildren, like hearing sounds are really funny to them. And if you all know, like some bodily sounds are hysterical. They're very funny when you're 5. They're like crack up giggle, right? But they're in that sensory phase where everything is like hilarious. So, but like to hear, to taste, to see, that all of these things, that those are all really critical elements of physical development. And so when you're teachers and when you're parent, because you all are going to be champions of your babies when you walk into school the first day, because these are the areas that you're going to talk about. So tell me the sensory opportunities in the classroom. Is there a manipulative area? Is there a place for my child to have this need met? Large motor is the least supported at school. Large motor is the least supported at school. Why? Recess, right? So somehow in our curriculum, we've relegated that large motor happens at recess. It's an unfortunate reality in classrooms, but this is a very important piece because large motor drives behavior. So if anyone, raise your hand if a teacher is talking about your child's movement at school. That was not like the typical, yeah, so he's a wiggling and all of those things. Well, our bodies do that. I'm talking to you and I can't stop moving. So it's like, when are those opportunities for children to express that? Any questions about physical development?
There's a question in the chat about cognitive
Yes. Can you read it?
Yes, sorry, my little one, sorry. In helping our children to develop these skills in cognitive development, do you have some favorite tools or questions you use or ask that might be easy for us to incorporate in our days with our children?
Yeah, so I think you had a sneak peek of my presentation. So I'm going to share things. I'm going to give you real activities because I think a lot of the learning happens at home. But for cognitive, just for the question right now, for my grandchildren, I have lots of like puzzle games, manipulative thinking. So we all have the Legos, big or small, whichever is developmentally appropriate, the ones, so that make sure there's not a choking hazard. The other thing that I really love for cognitive development is telling stories out loud. So it doesn't cost a lot. We can't buy that at Walmart, but it is really fun. And so a thing that I do is take plain old pieces of paper, and I can't draw, so you don't have to be a master artist, but I draw funny things like dogs or bears or whatever, and I line them up 2 or 3. If you have a 2-year-old, they can manage like 3 pictures, 4-year-old, maybe 5, and so 5-year-olds can have like 8 pictures, and then we move them around and tell funny stories. Like the bear is, oh my God, what's the bear doing? And with giggles, they'll say the bear is eating macaroni and cheese. The bear's eating macaroni and cheese. And so these cognitive exercises help children know that there's a beginning, a middle, an end. They also help them to like critically think on their feet. So as adults, sometimes we do that every day because we've been conditioned, but children don't have a lot of opportunities to make up things. And so that's a fun thing that I do. So I hope that gives you a great example of like the kind of stuff. And just remember, I want to say this: when I'm working with parents or teachers, most of my recommendations don't cost a lot of money, or they're free. It is just to have the time with that one-on-one time with your children. So you don't need expensive material to do fine motor and all of those things. You could make mud pies if you don't have Play-Doh. So I'm old school, but those are the really fun activities that really support children in these developmental domains. And then social, those are the adult-child relationships. These are so important. And parents, I'm going to say this is so important. If talk to your children, talk to your children real conversations, and listen to what they're saying. And so when my grandchildren are here, my son says something. He's like, Mom, you don't answer the phone, you don't do anything. Now I'm fully immersed in these conversations with these young children, because it's powerful. The things that I learn are so amazing, and it's just beautiful when you listen to their voices. And when children trust you, there is something powerful about the relationship. And remember, these beautiful toddlers and preschoolers and pre-kindergartners are going to be teenagers one day. So you're modeling this beautiful connection at this time, and it is invaluable. And so one of the examples, I have so many examples of my grandchildren, and my son would just say, Mom, what about me? But my grandchildren, before we go to bed, at night, my grandson will put his hand on my face and say, Gigi, what are you doing? And that is so powerful. Just the connection to say, and I can say, I don't know, I'm getting sleepy. You're getting sleepy. And these things seem so like basic, but they're so important, these connections that we're creating. And you're modeling for them relationships with other people that'll be in their life. Peer-to-peer relationships. Observe how children are playing together. Foster that kind of peer relationship. This is tough. I'm not gonna kid you. My 2-year-old granddaughter Luna, she's got a big personality. She will, if you know, her playmates have something to meet when they meet her. But how do we facilitate and teach these relationships on how to play and negotiate space? And these are really important. And this is important. And I'm going to keep taking this leap of faith. You guys are going to say, Dr. Mitchell, you should be talking about kindergartner. But I've also been a mom with all these ages, and when they get in high school, these relationships matter. If we don't teach children to foster them now, it turns into bullying and all of these other kinds of really inappropriate relationships that they have because they have not had practice with strong peer-to-peer relationships. And this is a key indicator for academic success, and that is no surprise. So is anybody surprised? Cognitive is what everybody measures in school, but the key to academic success are relationships. Anybody surprised about that? Any questions about that? No questions. That just gives me goosebumps. I love that because that tells us that it does not matter the curriculum. It does not matter the school. It does not matter what material you have. What matters is how we connect with children in meaningful ways. And that's most important in development. So that is aha. That is actually something that can be shared when you're in that parent-teacher conference, and the emphasis is on tracing their name, developing inappropriate. So maybe I can come back and do a whole developing inappropriate session. But then you could say, so tell me about the relationships. Tell me about how they're friends. Tell me about like how my child is interacting with the adults. Tell me about the connection and the sense of community in your classroom, because those are key indicators to later academic success. And then emotional development, also a key indicator. But this is when they are able to label emotions. This is by far, I'm going to say, one of the most significant things you can do, but one of the most adorable things you can do when they're little. My grandson was playing with, I have a pasta maker with Play-Doh, playing with that, and he couldn't get the Play-Doh to go through and make the little wiggly thing. And he's like, I'm mad. And I looked at him, I'm like, are you frustrated? He said, yes, I'm frustrated. It's so adorable. But since then, he's able to use frustration. I helped him label that. So now that's part of his vocabulary. He's often frustrated when the grapes roll off his plate, because do you need a bowl? No, Gigi, they're on the plate. When they roll up, I'm frustrated. And how powerful that is. And somebody put a thing, did you have reached the recording? Oh, this is for you, a recording limit. Okay. And then self-regulation. So we're going to talk a lot about this, because self-regulation is the stuff that we want to give our children before they go to school. So often children go to school and parents are like, oh, when they go to school, oh, I can't wait till they fix them. I can't wait till they teach them all the stuff that they teach them at school. But self-regulation is incredibly important. It's important for your own home. And self-regulation just means that a child can kind of regulate their emotion. That means that they can kind of calm themselves down. I'm going to use another grandson example. My grandson is now, anybody who's had a toddler knows this stage, runs and he goes under my dining room table and he won't come out. And so one day I talked to him, I said, whoa, you had a big feeling about that. And he's looking at me and I say, do you know what I do when I have a big feeling like that I don't have words for? And he's looking at me like, geez, what do you do? And I said, I do dinosaur breathing. And he's like, what? He loves dinosaurs. He's like, well, what is that? And I'm like, I just stand away from everyone and I just go, "Huh?" And so now at our house, there's a thing called dinosaur breathing. So my grandson will walk away from any situation that's too big, go in my living room, and I'll hear this big dinosaur breath. We have since then had to teach his teacher what this strategy. So it is self-regulation is the ability for a child to say, wait a minute, the environment is too much. Some adults can't do this, by the way. The environment is too much. I need a break. I need to take a break for myself before I go back into that situation. Any questions about emotional development? And if you guys can't tell, I really love this stuff. So like, I really have fun with this stuff. So now what I would love to do to practice, and we're going to go in breakouts, but before we do, let me talk about this a little bit. In the handout that we dropped in the chat, you will see that the first page is called the asset capacity map. And the asset capacity map is really for you to think about in each of those areas of development, cognitive, physical, social, emotional, like what assets does your child bring? So for example, I'm going to use the kicking example. So my child brings the asset that their large motor, their leg muscles are incredibly strong. So that's the asset. What does my child do really well? He runs all day, and don't forget, he can hop too, right? What does he really enjoy? He enjoys kicking the ball. But what developmental domain does he need support in? Well, while right now his body's focused on large motor, you know what? He really needs support with using words to express how he feels. Does everybody understand that? So just thinking about that, and this is important. I hope you keep this sheet for yourself and keep it after this meeting. But even so, when you are thinking about going into those parent teacher conferences, going to meet the kindergarten teacher for the first time, going to meet the preschool teacher for the first time, that you have this list because it's all positive, right? And then you're going to speak developmental domain, like my child is still working on defining his emotions. Do you guys see how I said that? He's still working on that. He's not. No, he can't deal with things. No, nobody. No, we're not talking. He is still working on this, and this thinking. If you get this, this is like magic. Because when you are speaking to teachers in this way, guess what? It's reciprocal. They start speaking to you that way. This is a magic language. So I want you to break out in rooms, think about your own child, your grandchild, whatever relation to the child, and just jot down your thoughts and then share your thinking about your child to each other. And the part I want you to do is really listen for how everyone describes which developmental domain does the child need support. So you can say, my child is still working on. I want you to practice this beautiful, positive language, still working on, because as a child, if they are still, they're little bitty babies. They've only been in the world 5 years. That's not a lot of living, right? I've been in our whole longer, so they should be still practicing some things and that are okay, and knowing that there's going to be growth in the future. Does anybody have any questions about that before we break out? Any questions? Okay, so we're going to go to breakout rooms. I heard that I may be able to pop in the breakout room and hang out with you a little bit. And we will debrief when we come back to hear like what you're thinking. But I hope this will be a fun exercise, especially if I just hope it'll be a fun exercise. I'm the mom of a little boy, so I've had some interesting parent-teacher conferences. So I know some of how the information comes into us sometimes, and it quite makes us question like what we're doing. But like, how are we speaking the beautiful gifts that our children bring to these these classroom communities? So I'm ready for breakout, and then I can't wait to see what you guys are talking about.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to send everyone to the breakout rooms, and I gave them 10 minutes to talk.
Perfect. Have fun.
You too. You too.
Did I send you to a breakout room? Good job. Way to remember. I forgot already.
Am I still sharing my screen? Okay, I need to do it. Okay, I just realized that. I'm like, I don't know what's happening here, so maybe I don't want to share it until we debrief really quickly. Welcome back. Welcome back. Were there, I heard some really interesting conversations just about like the system that the school system that our children are in, the mandatory testing and some of those requirements that, oh, baby Hannah, oh my gosh, that baby's so cute.
Oh, thank you.
Cheeks. Okay, that just caught me off guard all over. Okay, so sorry. And so I know that's really a concern. I'm like, and so when we're talking about kindergarten, like, so when our children go, like, what will happen? And so know that even though this talk isn't curricular, the strategies that I'm giving you will strengthen your child's capacity to do really well in kindergarten. I will reach out to Deborah and let her know I'm listening. And maybe bring something really concrete about those big ideas you guys are thinking about, like testing in kindergarten. What does that mean? Those placement tests, all of those, because that's really important also as you begin this journey. And some of you have done it a couple of times, it sounds like I heard in the conversation. But to debrief this activity, what did you learn? Can one or two people just debrief? What did your group learn or talk about? Can I have group one? Someone from group one.
I don't know what group number we are.
Well, feel free to share. I don't remember. I can't. Yes.
Yes,
I
I say
know
you-
it was
We
Yes,
were
I was gonna say
five.
you could just share.
Okay,
What-
well, I'm here with whatever group I'm in, but we talk about regulating. I work in a school, and I work with kindergartners through 5th grade, and even do mentorship programs with middle schoolers. And I was letting them know that if they don't, one of the parents had mentioned she had 6 kids, and she is focused on regulation. And when you were talking about that, I knew that that's a problem with all the IEP meetings that I go to and everything that I do. I definitely have an issue with regulations from kids. That's why their behavior problems are more major, is because of the fact that they don't get those regulated early. So the kindergarten stage is, like you said, is the perfect time to look into that and nip that in the bud. Because whatever you don't do in kindergarten, you see in 3rd grade, and in 3rd grade, 6th grade, and so forth. So we talked about that, and it was a really good conversation with the group because everybody kind of had a.
Yeah, and self-regulation is a big deal. And the second half of this presentation, I'm going to give you strategies to practice that at home. So I'm going to give you real stuff to do that doesn't cost anything to practice that at home. But you're right, self-regulation is the key indicator for a child being referred to special needs, or for a child to have some kind of corrective action in school. But part of it, the reason that I started the conversation out about development, I have 30 years, and this is what I love to do. I really deeply know about development. Everyone does not know about development. And so every kindergarten teacher has not studied child development. So that's something, a question mark to say, maybe that's why the expectations are interesting. But what I am equipping you with is this conversation of development, so that you know that, okay, so Lovebuck is running, so that makes sense. He's 4 years old. He should be running, so that you can be an advocate for some of these behavioral expectations that maybe sometimes not quite calibrated for what is happening in the classroom to what the child's behavior is. So one more person.
Another group, right?
Yeah, anyone else, any one other person, any insight or something you think about, you think that might be awesome to share?
I was wondering about testing. If this is not something I did share with my group, but I do have a son that it took me a little longer to get testing on, and what you can do if you notice it in your your next child or whatever the order may be. But
So I think what you're saying is,
starting
what are
school,
the
I
things?
know it's early. What is something that, if someone notices that there is some developmental or something going on, what is some, where is the start for that, I guess?
So,
So
and I think what you're saying, if you are observing your child and you think that you are observing a developmental delay, what can you do for that? And so that is going to be each situation. So I'm going to say something that's general. So children grow across the developmental continuum. So while I'm running really fast right now, I may not be able to read right now, but a reader may not be able to run right now. Does that make sense? And I want, that is just how interesting the developmental continuum is. And the child's body is only going to focus on one thing at a time. Does that make sense? So I know I have my brother's granddaughter can give a full college lecture, and she's 5 years old, but she trips over everything. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's gonna vary. So when you're looking at development and thinking about developmental delays, step back and look at what the child is doing, and if they really thriving in one area and just have not had a lot of opportunities to practice one area. We see this a lot with toddlers who have been held, like if I'm your Gigi, I'm holding you a lot. So they may start walking later because they are so cute and chubby, everybody's holding them. It's not necessarily a developmental delay, it's the environmental supports that they're being provided at the time. So that is complex, but the rest of the conversation is going to give you guys kind of, I think, some things to do. And I feel like I need to come back. I have like 3 new other sessions that I could create for you all that I think would be beneficial. But that is one, the thing that I would say for parents, remember that advocacy piece that I talked about, if you know development, there will be times when children need more support, right? We're humans. I need more support sometimes. You need more support sometimes, right? So when those times are, brought up, be an active voice, ask questions to say more. Well, how so? Compared to what? What are the expectations? Well, how many times do they try it? Do you see, guys, see what I'm saying? So that you can understand, is this a developmental delay, or is this child's unique way of interacting with the world? And so that advocacy is really important. Okay, so we have a lot in the second half, but I think it's gonna be kind of in the lane that you all are talking about. So let me share my
I
screen.
have one question, if I may.
Yes.
In what, in other words, the child's character, the child's personality, I think goes also with it because, like you said, some children can do one thing great and others, but then they grow up and they're still the same way. So it's part of like their DNA kind of thing. They're not big talkers. They never were and they never will be, but they're smart and they do everything perfect. So some people might think, well, that's not normal. Why doesn't that child talk more? Or what isn't that, you know what I mean? But it's part of I don't know, their DNA.
Who the child is, and that is, and you're so right. So when I was a little girl, and you guys are like, you remember when you were a little girl? I absolutely do. When I was a little girl, my uncle called me Chatty Cathy. I gave everyone lectures. I don't care who it was, the nurse, the grocery store. And look at what I do for my living. I do exactly what I did when I was a little girl. All I do is talk. I'm just talking to people, connecting with people. It was who I was. I was supposed to be experiment with the world that way. And you're right. So sometimes, and then think of. I need to come back. What is the baseline? So when you say that you see something, based on what? Based on what? And share with me what that means. And so so when you tried this, what happened? Well, you know what happens at home when this happens? And so, but because educating a child is a community event. It is not that it is just this one single, like I saw Hannah holding her baby. It's not all Hannah, it's all of us in the community that's gonna make this baby thrive and grow, and that's for every baby. So, inquire, be active in the decision-making about your kids. Okay, now I'm gonna try to share my screen. I think. Please let me get this right, Charisse.
It's
Are you seeing
starting
my
to
screen?
load. Almost. Yes, we see your screen.
Okay, you see the presentation. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna before we have a lot to go through, so I promise I won't. Well, I can't promise because I love this stuff. So the next area that I want to talk about, because you all were alluding to this, like, okay, Dr. Mitchell, you tell us about all the development stuff and whatever. And so, how am I supposed to do this? And I want to just emphasize the power of play. Why do I want to talk about this? Because play is something happens at kindergarten. I remember when I was faculty at a college, and we were talking about that kindergarten, they're sitting in their seats, they can't move. And so I start surveying 4-year-olds who turn 5-year-old. And I'm like, hey, yesterday was your birthday. What's different? Children said nothing. And I knew that, but I asked everyone that was turning 5 years old, what happened differently? Somehow adults, we create this shift. So children have this opportunity to play through up until kindergarten. In kindergarten, we have this strict academic setting that we immerse children in. Early education is from birth to 3rd grade. Everybody should say, what? 3rd grade. Play should be infused in what children are doing because that's how they grow. Maria Montessori said, play is the work of the child. It gives me goosebumps every time I read this. This is one of my favorite quotes because play is the work of the child. So I'm going to tell you a story that happened a year before last. So my daughter-in-law invited me to the pumpkin patch, and I want everybody to really listen to this story. She invited me to the pumpkin patch, and I had a lot of work. I always have a lot of work, and I debated, should I go to the pumpkin patch? And then something, and he said, you know what? Cancel all your meetings, go to the pumpkin patch. I go to the pumpkin patch, and there's this all of these activities for children to climb and do all these things. But there's this giant red tractor, old tractor from back in the day. It's probably predates me. But they had these stairs, and children could go in the tractor and use the steering wheel and pretend to drive. And so my grandson, who was 3 at the time, said, "What, Gigi?" And I looked at it and I said, uh-oh, this is going, oh my goodness, the big kids are there. That's what I'm thinking because I'm an adult. Look at the big kids are there. What is going to happen when we get to this tractor? So we're going up the steps and I'm apprehensively going, thinking saying to myself, Bridget, this is not, I don't know what's going to happen, girl, because the big kids are there. The big kids were probably like 2nd grade. The big kids were there. So we get to the door and I said, excuse me, my name is Bridget and this is Jameson and we'd like to play with you. So the big kid said, oh, okay, yes. And then one of the kids said, so the baby sits over there. So listen to this, the older child identified, my grandson was smaller, the baby can sit there. And then so the little guy goes on to the little girl, she's at the CB, this is how old this tractor is, at the CB, and he says, you operate that and you call for help when we need help. And she said, okay. And she tells the other little boy, well, you look out the window and you tell me when there's something in the way. He said, okay. And he said, well, I'm going to try. And I said, well, how are you so sure? I said, are you sure you can drive? He said, yeah. And I said, well, how are you so sure? He said, I got experience. And I said, well, what experience do you have? He said, yeah, I ride my brother's bike. I've been on my skateboard. I got experience. Does anybody see how this baby is taking this? These other things with wheels I've mastered. So this tractor is nothing. This tractor is nothing. I got this, right? And so then, and with all of that, they start driving. My grandson says, look, there's 3 baby cows. Now remember, he's the little one. The little girl says, yes, there's 3 baby cows, and they're their moms. So you see what happened? This stuff gives me goosebumps. The baby, they didn't make, hey, this was not scripted. It just happened. And so they're driving the tractor, and they're like, we got all the baby cows. And the little girl said, stop, we got to go back to get the other cow that's over there. They all ran out of this tractor as quickly as they started to play. This is the power of play. That is the power of play. And so it is not scripted. Children can navigate it. They make sense of their world. They make connections. They're problem solving. Does this give anybody goosebumps? So when you tell your kids go play with them so you can see this good stuff. This is the stuff that helps children become self-regulated. During that entire activity, there were 4 children, no behaviors. Anybody listening? 4 children, no behaviors. I was worried about who was going to get the steering wheel. They weren't worried about that. They figured it out. So the power of play. So why is play important to all of this? Play is important because that is how children learn. I want you all to be advocates for your children. So when they have that backpack full of worksheets developing inappropriate, children should not have backpacks full of worksheets. I would question the teacher and say, what are you doing? If what are the worksheets? That's not how children learn. Play is how children learn. It is organic. It happens instantaneously. It happened the moment I introduced myself to those children. We were immersed in this beautiful, and I don't know if you all get goosebumps, but I love play. It was so gorgeous, and it happens really quickly. It is joyful. They are cooperating, collaborating, it's reciprocal, the conversation, they're thinking together, and it's child initiated. Okay, so what is child initiated? That means that it is less adult directed. This is important because kindergarten, some of our children don't have success. Someone talked about self-regulation. The reason our children aren't regulated, they're being asked to do things that are developmentally inappropriate by adults. But in my scenario, there were no behaviors, and that was complex. That was kind of like the making of behaviors, that situation. And so it is process and not product. The kids didn't care. When they were done with that, they were done. They didn't like, oh no, now it's my turn for the steering wheel. There was no adult saying, don't play because next you're going to do that. The children are in the process of making sense of their world right now. And that is what prepares children to be strong learners. It sounds counterproductive. But so why play? It creates meaning in the world. That little boy got experience. He on his own connected all the wheels he had been exposed to. Is anybody getting excited? Thumbs up or something on your this stuff is good. This is what should be happening in a kindergarten classroom. And so he made those connections. It promotes critical thinking. My grandson, there are 3 baby cows, and I don't know if anyone caught this, that all of them, so we're adults, and we know there were no cows, but how did all these babies see these cows? That stuff is good. They were immersed in the story and the reality of where they were. It promotes persistence. This is important. The ability to stick with something, to stay with something. This is important when in high school, when if anybody, raise your hand if you have older kids. Papers, backpack checks, so they can't complete them because they didn't play. Because play promotes persistence. It gives a complete cycle of completion. And so they are able to keep at it. And I love this picture with the children with the blocks. If you look at their faces, they don't know anything around them. They are right now immersed into this thing that they're not going to stop doing until they're done. And they pick when they're done. Its ability to test new ideas and from previous experiences, and it enhances executive functioning skills. And this is where we need to go. So executive functioning skills are the key to life success, our success. If adults don't have executive functioning skills, they cannot, we can't do it. And so but the purpose of this conversation is, as you're thinking about it, I love the practical, what can we really do with our kids right now? We're going to share that. Prepare our children to strengthen their executive functioning skills so they're able to attend to things. So well-developed executive functioning skills are an important predictor for later academic and life. Does that anybody hear that? See, I get excited about this, and I know you guys are like, oh my gosh, it's evening and we're listening to her. I get so excited about this because we have more control with the outcomes of our children than we think we do. We are with our children most of the time. And so we are the champions of their future success, and executive functioning skills is it. So this is going to seem really like academic, and I need to go there for a minute. So executive functioning skills would have three components: inhibitory, self-control, working memory, and cognitive flexibility. But I want you to see something here for the parents. So this is between 3 and 7 years is an important area. This is when they are scaffolding, building, creating, mastering executive functioning skills. And it is important because the person who shared all the behaviors of because what? Self-regulation. If they're unable to self-regulate, that's where we have the behaviors. But ooh, look at this. These are middle schoolers. Is everybody looking at this? If we get it right here, we're slam dunk here. It's March Madness time. I'm a Jayhawk. It's March Madness. This is a slam dunk. If we can really strengthen these skills here, oh my goodness, we are really going to be able to dynamically support the needs of these children. So what is inhibitory control? It is task persistence. It means I'm not going to stop. And I know you've seen this. You've seen when children, I love this picture, but also Legos. Whoever invented Legos, they're brilliant because they are like the optimal thinking toys. If you've ever seen a child just take a handful of Legos and construct and hear themselves talk and all the work, they're never done. They can stick to it until they make it work. They are able to practice new skills. I watched my grandson, and we have some of those magnetic blocks. I watched him take something that looks like an airplane and say, wait a minute, if I put the long sides here, the arms to a robot. This stuff is so good. We're preparing children to be able to be creative in the world, but this is when they are able to control the temper. Remember those dinosaur breathing? The dinosaur breathing. They can control themselves. They're like, and hey, I'm gonna step away. Some adults are unable to do this. We work with them, we live with them. They're unable to control their temper, but these are executive functioning skills that we learn early on if intentional. And then the children are able to wait their turn. This is so important. So how many times do we, especially when siblings are in this space, when I have all 3 grandkids in my house, I'm saying, it's your turn first. How many times have we said that? It's your turn first. It's your turn first, but when they can wait, woo, that is good. That is self-regulation. That is a time when they are ready to be able to do something else. So what are play-based activities? So these are the things that you can do at home for free to practice these skills with your kids. So one is the freeze dance. Anybody play that? You play some funny music, you freeze. Kindergarten teachers and preschool teachers, it looks like the kids are just having fun, but what we're doing is telling them to practice staying in place, to control your own body movement. Anybody get goosebumps? These are practical ways, and you can play this in your kitchen making dinner. Play some music and say, stop. So these are things that you can work with your kids right now. Duck, goose. Sit still. You got to sit still to get a turn. You're waiting your turn, and they're practicing patience. Anybody, is this clicking for anyone? I mean, these are everyday things that you can do at home, and it's not a worksheet. It's not some book that you buy at Walmart. It's not colored in the line. You're helping these babies train their brain to be able to self-regulate. And then role playing, is like police officer, and I'm the puppy. Okay? I'm the puppy. And so to be the puppy, I need to think about what I'm going to do to be the puppy. And I got to stay in character. And I want to say when my grandson's the puppy, he really licks people. So that's just really extreme. But kids are able to adopt these roles and stay in character. That is really powerful. So any questions about this? And I want to give some space because these are things you can do every day. You can do these every day with your kids, and you may not. And somebody said testing. So the testing is not going to say, can your child do the freeze dance? But the behaviors that your child will be able to do, how your child will be able to accommodate to the learning environment will be at a very higher rate. So any questions about these? I know I get excited because I love this stuff because it's so simple. And sometimes we spend a lot of money trying to figure it out, but these are things everyone has capacity for. Any questions about inhibitory control? Okay, the next is working memory. So working memory means that children can retrieve what they did yesterday. Why is this important? This is important. Think about it. I know we're talking about the little, but think about your high schoolers. So we want them to be able to recall information and apply it in a new place and space. That's what working memory does. And for young children, this is really important. So they think about thinking. I love that. You're thinking about thinking. When my grandson, let me think about it, Gigi. I'm like, whoa, he's thinking about thinking. They say it out loud. Let me think about that. That means they are digging, they know how to retrieve information from prior experiences to apply it to a new experience. This is a powerful element of executive functioning. Remembering all the steps in the task. And I'm going to give some samples, but one of the things I love to do is cook with children. I don't know if you guys cook with children, and start with like really basic things. And I say things that people say, well, you can't talk about peanut butter. That's a fun thing to play with. If there's no allergies in your house, like, how do you make a peanut butter and banana sandwich? How do you make a peanut butter and blueberry sandwich? How do you make when they learn the steps, they can do it over and over. They're practicing their brain to say that, you know what? Sometimes things need to go a certain way to get a certain outcome. We're teaching them this while they're little. And that is powerful. Thinking and working at the same time. And again, I'm gonna use Legos. So Legos, like for me as an adult, I was at a conference and they put Legos on the table. I literally just stacking them, not thinking. But when I watch children play with Legos, I can see them making decisions, intentional decisions about where the yellow is going. Uh-oh, I need another blue one. And so that working memory is really important. And going back to testing, this is important. That's why standardized testing, I'm not going to say fails, is really challenging because we try to chunk information for young children to learn really quickly and to remember. That's not how you do it. You do it through executive functioning by helping them to practice the capacity to remember. So they can consider 2 different strategies and decide which is best. This happens all the time. I don't know about you all at breakfast, but again, I have grandchildren that are little, and I ask about like, what are we gonna eat for breakfast? The 2-year-old, she just wants dry, what do you call those, Lucky Charms, bad cereal, I know, but I'm a GG. I do what they need me to do. And my grandson is like, no, I want Lucky Charms with milk, and I want a spoon. My granddaughter wants them just poured in front of her. Different strategies. They're talking about these ways, and they decide which is best. And I want to keep saying this, but some adults have not mastered these skills, and you can see it in the way they work, the way they make decisions, the way they interact with others, and then reflecting on the answer. And my favorite thing my grandson does is like, oh, like, yeah, that's easy. I get goosebumps when I see that because he's like considering. Now, there's a lot of information in here. Let me organize this in my computer and figure out, is that answer really the right answer? And then taking different perspectives and working at the same time. This is powerful. That I can use I can roll the ball, and I can make the long string of Play-Doh at the same time. I can think about those things at the same time. And so working memory is the thing that really helps children with standardized testing. So what are some play-based activities? Card games like Uno, Go Fish, Crazy Eights. They have to remember the rules. Now, must admit, my brother's granddaughter, she changes the rules. That baby, she's beyond executive functioning because she knows how to change the rules in her favor. But that means you know the rules. And then word games like, I'm going on a picnic, so what do I need to have? Like jumble, scramble, like mixing up words. That means you need to list items, recall words, thinking about, remember, thinking about thinking. And then cooking, which is my absolute favorite for young children, cooking, because they have to follow instructions. And when you don't follow instructions, even that's fun. What if you put the bananas on top of your bread, the top piece of your bread, then put the peanut butter, then put the piece of bread? What happens? That is some samples for working memory. Any questions about that? Are you all getting how simple some of these things are that you can practice with your children? It doesn't take a lot, and you can do these in the car, you can do these on a walk, you can do these anytime. You can do them out loud, you can do them formally, you can however you want, but the more practice they get, they will be able to apply these executive functioning elements to other things. When they begin to learn, when they begin to write sentences, they'll be able to say, this is the beginning, this is the middle, this is the end. They'll be able to stay on task for a learning event in the classroom. And then the last one is cognitive flexibility. And this is when they shift attention back and forth. This happens, again, I invite you all to my house when all the babies are here. This happens all the time. I have my play space looks like, I'm trained Montessori, so it looks like a Montessori classroom in my basement. And so there are a lot of really interesting things to do. And so my grandchildren often start one thing, and then another would want the thing that the other had. And they go, wait a minute, no, I'm still working on that. I'm doing this too. They're able to go back and forth. No, that puzzle piece goes there, and they go back and start playing with the clay. They're able to make these decisions because they are their cognitive flexibility, shifting between different parts of the task. Just making cereal. Gigi, I'm gonna get my spoon first this time. And I know that may not sound, because generally at Gigi's house, we get the cereal first. But Gigi, I'm mixing this thing up. I'm getting my spoon first this time. So thinking about, they know the order so beautifully. Remember that working memory. Now they're able to like play with it. It's all, and I to think about cognitive flexibility. It's like juggling. They're like, oh, I got this now. I can really navigate in different ways. And then thinking about multiple concepts at the same time and switching between them. And so we do this often, right? When we're working, and I'm just gonna call out another adult thing. Like if I have recorded my favorite show and I'm working, I'm typing a document and I'm looking at an email, and and I'm not in a live meeting, I may peek over at my show. And then when I'm on the same, I'm doing different things, but I'm switching between them. Children are able to use those same skills with cognitive flexibility. Adjusting behavior in response to changing environment. This is important. We see children do this. Did we hear the thing? Well, they don't do that. Anybody heard that? Well, the teacher says they do that at school. Am I the only mom that's heard? Have anybody raise your hand, say something you do? Children know. And my favorite thing now is like different things happen at Gigi's house than at home. That's what my son and daughter-in-law tell me. But the children know how to change their behavior based on the environment. Where I have a very open, flexible, child-proof environment, there are more restrictions in their home environment and even more so in the classroom environment. But the children know how to adjust their behavior to fit each of those environments. investing more mental energy when needed. When they want to do something, they're going to do it, and they won't stop. And I love this little boy with the pegs and the spools, because when children start thinking, and I'm gonna just say this, what I find in classrooms, and I have thousands of hours of classroom observations because I love to see what's happening. But when I go in classrooms, the one mistake that I always see is that teachers require children to put all their things away every time. Now, if I'm a mom, I have images of my son's room that was really chaotic. There is value to let them step away from an activity and come back to it later. I'm going to say that again. There is value. So if there's a puzzle at home, instead of saying pick it all up before dinner, pause a couple of times and see how they go back to it. Because generally children aren't done until they're done. We set artificial stop signs for children's thinking because we're trying to control the space. We want a neat space, and we're grown-ups and we require things. But I urge you to, from a child-centered perspective, at least once avoid picking up and see what happens. And if when you guys email me and say they won't clean their room because I did that once, don't blame me. But please know that there is value for them to be able to attend to things that they're interested in. So let's do sample play for that cognitive flexibility. Puzzles. I mean, because they develop their spatial intelligence. They know what shape. I have something called Block of Rules, and I would recommend them. They are award-winning toy. Is it cheap? No. But what is cool about this toy, you can look at the blocks different ways. It could be a triangle, or it could be a cone, or a pyramid, or whatever. And so, but that spatial intelligence, why is that important? When do we use spatial intelligence? I'm just saying if you guys are awake. I'm pumped up. Are you awake? That's when we do geometry, right? Kids gain their spatial intelligence here during these opportunities. That's why this is so important. Board games where they can create a strategy. So one of the funnest things that I love that I see in preschool class is that Connect Four. You know, guys know that thing you drop the doodads and the doodad. I still can't play. I lose every time. I'm ashamed to say. But I love to see the intensity of these little ones saying, I got you. I got you. They have put their little chips in the right space to corner their opponent. Whoa, that is strategy. They're building strategy so that they're able to have that cognitive flexibility, because strategy is what? Ability to see something multiple different ways, and then building blocks. And we talked about Legos, but it could be wooden blocks, it could be any kind of blocks, but they are required to plan and problem solve. And I'm going to look at the time. So what I would do before we practice, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if you guys have any thoughts before we go into the activity. And I don't know how to stop sharing my screen. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. I see it now.
I don't have a question. I just have a thought that I think that this is just a good reminder of even the small things that we're probably already doing with our kids, is like those are the right things, and that learning and teaching doesn't have to be this big complicated thing, and we don't have to be teachers to do it. So just thank you so much for the reminder that parenting is just those small little things that we're able to just incorporate daily. So thank you.
You're welcome. And what I would, even though these seem so simple, they're so powerful. And I think the reason I get so excited, my friends are like, oh my gosh, you know that you're in the right field, Bridget, because you love these babies. Because I know the possibilities, but on the flip side, I do see the challenges when children are categorized as having special needs. And I've been in those classrooms, and sometimes I know that I don't believe it's a special need. I think that a child is in an environment and they don't have the right supports in the environment. And so I always think about like what's preventive. At home, the child is in the best loving place ever, because every adult is going to give him a hug, a kiss, and a high five, and speak affirmations and do all these wonderful things. And so that, I believe, is where we can strengthen these skills, because they're not tested. Testing keeps coming up, but they're not tested. And you know that you're teaching your child to self-regulate. So when you play Simon Says, and it's well, my son was like, "Mom, you play Simon Says so many times." I'm like, "Simon Says, don't move." And then I'm like, "Oh, let me go step out the laundry real quick." And then, okay, Simon says, but and I'm doing it in a fun way, and I'm doing it in the context of play. That's why I brought up play. That sometimes we think that these are formal strategies that some professional has to write out in the IEP and tell us what our child needs. Sometimes that's true, but sometimes that's not true. Sometimes we can provide supports for our babies so that our babies are able to become who they are supposed to become. And I think, is your name Karuchi Sierra? You mentioned that because sometimes we can't. We forget that the child has a unique identity. Each person is born with a unique fingerprint, each with a unique sense of self, with a unique path in the world, with a unique purpose. And so in doing so, how do we honor that, but give the children capacity that they can be strong, and then that can evolve into something incredible. So I want to say that I want to empower you to do that. And I hope the way I'm presenting, I thought about like how to string these things together. I hope it makes sense. I talk about development, play, then executive function, and guess what? You're playing already, so that you can see that that's the through line of practicing. So what happens if your child's already in school and they say, "You know what, they just wiggle all the time. We cannot." Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Bridget was standing. I was always the teacher. So back when I was a little girl, I would probably be diagnosed as something. But I was always the teacher. I knew more than my teacher. I was always up in front of I wanted to talk. But for those, I think I lost my point. So before the opportunities that we can really support the children in the learning environment before they get to the learning environment, I think that's an opportunity, if that makes sense. I know I lost a little bit of my thought there, but that's what I was trying to get to, that you are the learning environment. You're the most important learning environment in my perspective. And so you have the capacity to shift and change so that I know where I was going. Those children that wiggle all the time, all is not lost. You can still use some of these strategies. With older children, you would use games to play where you have to take turns. Another great mechanism, and I just want to give you guys tips and tricks to buy an easel. And this sounds so weird. Dr. Mitchell, what are you talking about, an easel? Older elementary kids, buy an easel, put it into place, buy some paints, and let them just paint. What is that doing? It's giving them this focus. Remember that persistence where they can create what they want. There's no rules to it. And they are in that moment for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Those are really retraining their self-regulation skills, their ability to attend to something intently for a period of time. So if you have older kids, use some of these strategies, just use more applicable strategies. So I love easels. I love the everybody, and I'm gonna get to the activity, but I want to give you guys as many ideas. Have you seen the rock painting? Rock painting. It's a big phase now. So Google, go on YouTube and say rock painting. It is where people get rocks and they make them ladybugs and butterflies and all of those things. Another great self-regulation activity for older kids. And then you can have a rock garden. Throw them, all your beautiful works of art. But I hope you're getting ideas, those activities where children have to focus and concentrate to complete something is really important. And then last, before I go to the activity, the cycle of completeness for executive functioning is important. The cycle of completeness for executive functioning is important. So go through your toys, go through your materials. If you have broken and things with missing pieces, get rid of them. Donate them or create new games from them. Because when children can't finish, so you always say, there's the puzzle, we don't know where that other piece is. You're teaching them that there's no cycle completeness. Does everybody get that? It seems really far-fetched, but when they're in high school and have to write a report, those students who are unable to complete, they are victims of not clear cycles of completion. Because we have modeled for them, the 3 pieces of puzzle, you can still play with it. To train their brains, I really encourage you to go through what you have and make sure that every piece is there so children can, first of all, know the order of things, which is important, and then to be able to recreate the order of things because all of the things are there. That cognitive flexibility in what they're doing. So any questions before we do the activity? Is there anything in the chat? I don't know how to check the chat.
No questions in the chat.
Okay, so now I'm going to reshare my screen and I'm going to explain the activity.
I do have a quick question, Dr. Mitchell.
Yes.
So you were saying that there's no specific way that's the best for learning, but you kind of like hit a hot button for me, and that's Montessori. Would you say if somebody does have the option to, like, if you're at home and you still have younger children prior to kindergarten, because Montessori is very expensive, but a lot of Montessori is like basic life skills, and it's not necessarily play, but it's also like people see it in its play, but it's actually work. It's their work and they love it. And they are successful with it because they want to be able to pour. They want to be successful and do the same things that we do, right? And then they learn that spatial awareness. So would you say for parents who have the younger children who are not enrolled in kindergarten or can keep their kindergartner at home and implement some of like the Maria Montessori activities at home, would you say that would be a better way to go than to like push them off to kindergarten, especially for those kindergartners?
So I'm going to say I'm a trained Montessorian. I drank the Kool-Aid, guys. I believe in Montessori. And so my play space for, and these are the criteria for Montessori for me, that is a prepared space. And so I really like when I say no complete, because the cycle of completion, the prepared environment, the role of the adult and the materials. And so I won't so I'm for school and homeschooling. I see value in both. It depends on what the quality is. But what I love about Montessori, remember the quote, play is the work of the child. If I could get that like burned on my back, I love that so everybody can see it. Play is the work of the child. So everything I do in my home is play-based. So even I'm going to give you guys some examples. And you're going to say, this lady is so crazy. Or you're going to say, and see your play space you created for your babies. Laundry. So I like towels and washcloths. That's a play activity. We put them in a basket, we fold them, we unfold them, we fold them, we unfold them. And so some people are like, man, you don't have toys, they're folding and unfolding. What am I teaching? I've been talking about it all night. What am I teaching when we fold and we unfold? Anybody? Self-regulation. Self-regulation, and I'm telling you that my 2-year-old granddaughter and my 5-year-old grandson can fold towels all day. So if you guys need some helpers, they can fold all day. They think it's play, but it's self-regulation, so they'll be able to attend to things. The things that we do in our home, and and I'm sharing these with you so that you can do them. And they are for, I would say, like all the elementary. Remember, early education is birth through third grade. But the thing that we do is fruit washing. And so if you're a Montessori and everything is like we model everything. So I always demonstrate the activity. I never buy a toy that I don't demonstrate. I show them how to use it. Why? Because I want them to be able to expand, follow the instructions, then to expand. But something we do all the time is fruit washing. So I have a giant basket of oranges and apples, and I get strawberries and raspberries and whatever. And so when the grandkids come, I have the cleanest fruit in Colorado Springs. They wash fruit all the time. Like, Gigi, can I wash fruit? Gigi, can I wash fruit? We're washing fruit, but the power of that is the conversation. So we know that if we wash raspberries differently than when we wash oranges, and this is just your regular grocery. You don't have to go to Amazon or anywhere. You probably have an apple at home. And so, all to your point, I think play is really, because some people think play are just toys, but play is application and practice. How many opportunities you give children to opportunities to apply and practice. So if you think about play in that realm, then you'll take that kind of, oh, they have Barbie or whoever and they're doing something. But play is, how do you have them practice? And the other thing that fruit washing, I'm not going to give you a Montessori lesson, but it demonstrates soft touch. So anybody had a toddler, and when they first learn how to touch their friends, not always soft, okay? It is not always soft. So when we're doing raspberries and blueberries, we're practicing the different ways that you touch. And it's so beautiful. It makes me cry when I see my grandchildren doing it. It's so beautiful. But when you see, like, they know it's a different pressure for an orange than for a strawberry. I'm teaching them that there is different kinds of touch. And it's not like, don't touch your friend like that. Use soft touches. I don't have to say that because they're immersed in play and they're learning this very important skill. Was that a big ramble? Probably, but did you all get that? So everything is play because everything is an opportunity to apply and practice. And if, like, I don't like folding, and I don't care how my clothes look. If you don't have anything to do, give some preschoolers a basket of clothes to fold. You will find great joy. It's so fun. So I'm gonna now share my screen and talk about the activity. Because we have a few more minutes. I think we have 5 more minutes. So how many more minutes do we have, Cherise? Is she still here? Or Tanya?
Yes,
how
I'm
many
still
more
here.
minutes? Okay.
It is 7:45, so we have about 10 minutes left.
Okay, so maybe we should just okay, well, we do a 5-minute breakout then? Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen really quickly.
Yes, we could do a 5-minute breakout.
Okay, I'm gonna share really quickly.
And I'm just gonna put them back in the same groups that they were just
That's
in.
perfect. And so what you're gonna do now is we're gonna really practice executive functioning. And on your worksheet, so what you're going to do is think about your child again, and then I want you to think about inhibitory control. Yeah, my baby's learning that. Are they practicing? Are they mastering? And then what kinds of like activities could you do? Could you wash fruit? Could you fold clothes? Could you play go fish? Whatever those things are, with the kind of examples I provided. Just take 5 minutes and chat about it. But I'm hoping that you'll take this and really use it when you're thinking about supporting your children. So go ahead and take us to our special place, our breakout rooms.
Okay, perfect. I just want to say, does anyone have any questions about what they're supposed to be doing, or everyone understands? Okay, I'm guessing everyone understands. I'm gonna send everyone now. Did it not put you guys in a breakout room? Let me add you guys to a breakout room. Okay.
Reese, did you see those? So Jamie White, Chelsea was not here when we did the first one, but did you get Jamie White on your roll?
Yeah, I
Okay.
got her. I think she got out and came back in.
Oh, okay.
Because I seen when she had left at one time, and then when she came back in, and I'm like, wait, who is that? But yeah, I have her. I got her. I have Chelsea, and then I had
Chelsea.
Sierra.
Okay,
Yep, I had
perfect.
all three. And then I kept my screen is blurred, but I kept counting and everything. So I think we
Okay.
got everyone.
Okay, awesome.
Guys, is this making sense? Is it connecting?
Yes, it is. It's making sense, and I feel like it's lots of good information. I think everyone's they're struggling probably still from the time change, because I know I'm still struggling.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I know it, so I have the easy job. So I could talk about this stuff forever if you.
That's
And so,
good.
yeah, the thing that I love about the work is that I'm not just talking about it, I practice it every day.
Yeah.
So it's that important to me that like for my grandchildren, for my son, I mean, these things are so important. And I think right now with like the economy, you don't have to be wealthy to do the right. So I guess everybody's not back yet. We're almost back. We're almost all back. We're coming. Well, welcome back. And I know we don't have much time, but I hope in that exercise you really deeply thought about your child. And more importantly, I hope you're thinking about the power that you have in your child's life, and that how important who you are in their life is. And I know that sounds like really mushy, but that's the truth. And so, going to kindergarten, even if you have a preschooler, all of these things, they're scary. Every transition my son has, I'm afraid. I'm like, oh my God. And my son is like an adult with kids now. And he tells me, Mom, I'm going to do this. What? I've never heard of that. How is that gonna happen? So it is scary. Parenting is scary, but you got this. And trust your intuition. Trust like who you are. Trust who your children are, and take a risk and like be fully present and play. And now that you have this new working definition of play, like really play, really laugh, really giggle, really be involved, because that is what is the stuff that your learner, your child needs to be strong when they go to kindergarten and beyond. So there's no like, how many books should my preschooler read, or what, one thing to do. It's all of these little things that you do to nurture the beauty that's within them. That's what you do. You do that so that you can actualize their authentic being, who they are to become in the world. So I have one more. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
So this is, I said play is the work of the child is my favorite quote, but this is my other favorite quote. I have lots of favorite quotes, but I love Yuri Bronfenbrenner because he talks about how the environment shapes who the child is, and that's what we have talked about. So you shape who your baby is and what their outcomes are. But I love this. Every child needs at least one adult who is irrationally crazy about him or her. I'm going to read that again. Every child needs at least one adult who is irrationally crazy about him or her. And so regardless of what you hear from schools, regardless of what you hear from, you know, other people, trust who you know your child is, love them for who they are, give them the biggest hugs, lots of kisses, talk about their capacity and not the things they're still working on all the time, so that they can go in the world and be great in the world. Know that what you're doing right now is just right. And so that concludes my presentation. And if anybody has any questions, but I do want to put my email address here. Please feel free to reach out to me. I love talking about this stuff. This is like my favorite stuff ever. So you can take a picture of this with your phone, and if you want to capture it or whatever. But I love this stuff. This is, and I believe in what I'm saying. And more importantly, I walk the talk. So what I'm sharing with you is what I use in my home with my child, with my grandchildren, because I know it works. And this is the information that I coach teachers around the country to be able to support. So are there any questions? I know that you all are going to say, "Ooh, we don't want this girl on a Thursday night again," because she just, my uncle was right. I just go on and on. But I hope you found some value in this conversation this evening. Any comments, anything?
I just wanted to add that at the beginning, I really liked the way you provided us with ways to change that dynamic when you go into that school advocating for your child. When you put out there what is your child's assets and how we can advocate for our child, so that way we also are teaching our teacher, to do the same and treat our children the same. And I thought that was a very important piece to this whole, like, I thought that was really awesome that avocation piece teaches us how it changes the way someone else were to look at your child. And I thought that was
Yes.
I really caught on to that. And I was like, maybe I should change the way I be, like sometimes I'm like, they work with my nerves or whatever. And maybe I should say, hey, and watch the way in which, and turn it into a positive. So that way, like you said, other people are also looking at your children in a positive light and not that negative. Like you said, what can your child do instead of focusing on what they can't. So I really
Yes.
appreciate it and I enjoyed that.
Thank you. And my grandson, who is 5, when I never say, "Oh, you're too much." I'm like, "What's your biggest energy today?" That is so cool. I mean, so that's really positive. He's like, "Yeah, Gigi, I'm bringing this energy." So just think of how you're talking about your babies. Anything else? Anybody else have a comment or?
Just thank you for all that important information that we can always use any day.
Well, you are welcome. And if it would be helpful, I can share the slide deck after this. If anybody wants the slide deck, because I know there are some examples in the slide deck that you may want. So if Tanya and Teresa, if anyone wants that, I can share that with you so that you can send it out. But as usual, this is probably my 6th or 7th time speaking for Parent Challenge. I love this because I was you, and I was always thinking about how can I be a better mom? How can I do this better? What is the way? And it was so beneficial for me to be in conversations with other parents trying to do the same thing. And so I appreciate you allowing me in this conversation with you today, and being a catalyst to make a difference in humanity, because that's what you do every time you hug your baby and every time you tell them you love them and that they can be anything they want to become. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mitchell. So we are going to put and several of them would like the slides. So if you could send that to us, that would be fabulous. And I am going to place the survey in the chat. So if you could fill out the survey, and then we will have a door prize announcement. So I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes or a minute. Just let me know if you could raise your hand or do one of the little reactions, and I'll know that you've completed your survey.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Where's the
Thank you.
survey?
Bye.
The survey's in the chat. If you click on chat,
Mhm.
it
Where's
should
it
be
out?
right there.
Oh, yes. Now
Yes, yes.
okay. Thank you.